this is one of, for me personally, this was one of the more interesting threads because it has 8 short films that have some very, very unique filmmaking. I'm here today to introduce you to 6 of the filmmakers, as far as I know, are here present today. I'm going to go one by one. We can start with Taruna Khatri, whose film Farther Than Distance is playing as part of Shift Focus. We'll go to Myat Zarchi from Myanmar, whose beautiful film, The Altar, is playing as part of Shift Focus. Mo? Next are Pranjal, Acharya and Anant Jain, the directors of a film called Aakhiri Tukda. Next is Soumyajit, Ghosh, Dastidar, whose lovely flame flowering man is part of Shift Focus. And we have Aayushman Pandey, whose animated film Kamathipura is part of Shift Focus. Just a note, there are 2 more films in this section whose filmmakers aren't present here today. Those films are White Ant and Slow Shift by Shambhavi Kaul, Slow Shift, and White Ant, whose director Shalini Adnani is not present here. So I think 6 of the films are represented here today. So yeah, that's about it from me. It was a joy to curate this section. Congratulations once again. It was lovely to talk to you yesterday as well. Good luck for the, I think one screening with the Q&A session was over yesterday. We have 2 more screenings to go. So please, particular section, it was one of my personal favorites as well. Well done.
Does anyone have any questions? Otherwise, we can also just talk to each other about each other's films, because I think that's really exciting. Yeah, Soumyajit, I wanted to ask you a question because it was really awesome to hear you talk about how you wrote this film partly out of where you were at the time with your personal experience. And then what was fascinating is the voiceover in the film is actually not about the protagonist herself. It's about her dad going through his journey. And I was very curious how that choice came about, that it won't be about the journey in first person that you wanted to explore. It's about the daughter talking about her father. So it's almost like a second person approach to recording something that was that you felt was tied to yourself and where you were at the time. So I just wanted to ask how that choice came about to use second person.
Yeah. So I think it's a lot of worldview that I was also trying to channel at that point of time. A major so I have a problem when in the years of growing up and in my early adulthood years, I have always thought of how we always end up blaming our parents for whatever they have not done for us. And in the entire coming out process, somehow parents play a very integral role because we generally see children coming out to their parents. And on the other hand, if parents are not doing anything right, we always go back saying that, it is a childhood trauma because my father was not right or my mother was not right and I was not treated like this. And I think we sometimes forget that our parents are also becoming parents for the first time. Right. So I wanted to work on these 2 ideas and reverse the idea of coming out. Instead of a child coming out to their parent, what if a parent is not directly coming out, but over the years gradually coming out to their child, and how the child, with of course all the built-in anger and anxiety, finally grows up to realize that I have had this person all these years in my life, but I have never looked at the person the way that she is. And yeah, and for me, I think the best part of all of it was the tying up journey, because it ties up through the protest. The almost like what I wanted to look at as a dance sequence in the film, where she's talking about how she went to the 2019 protest, and then she saw the power of freedom, and she understood what voice is, and she came back thinking that the world is so violent towards plants and trees, and this beautiful flower had her father had born, and she should now come to terms with it. So yeah, I think that's what I was thinking while I put it together that way, and that's the reason why I thought of looking at the father's journey through the point of view of the daughter. I don't know if I'm.
Hey, that's awesome, man. Thanks so much for sharing. And I just wanted to pay you a compliment. I remember when I first saw Chantal Akerman's film Jan Dielman, and she wrote that she wasn't just trying to write, an anti-patriarchal narrative. She was also trying to invent an anti-patriarchal cinematic language that wasn't tied to like continuity style and hero's journey. And I think you've achieved something on your own terms in creating your own language to tell your own voice in, which is, I think, one step beyond just having your own voice.
Thank you so much.
I have a question for Pranjal. So you are the only person who has also acted in the film that you've directed. So maybe can you talk about a little bit about how that process was, because you're also a very small crew, and you had quite a few locations, and you're also acting. So can you just talk a little bit about that?
So I think it all started like when we were writing the film together. So we had this conversation back and forth that how are we going to direct this, and Anant is a cinematographer as well. So I was pretty confident that he'll handle that end of it. And when it came to acting, because I was there throughout the process of writing, I guess I knew the essence of the character that was there, and I am an actor as well. So I knew that I can portray it easily, because like I knew what it was all about. Plus, our story was really about a person who has moved from a small village to a city, and he has come here looking for a job, but he is missing his home, and he's looking for that one element that makes him feel that he's at home. And that one element is the koel bird, which he used to wake up to every morning in his village, the sound of the bird. And the thing is that when we were shooting that film, Anant was about to leave for London for his masters, and I already am from Jaipur, so I am away from home. So it was at a very interesting time for both of us, and I think yeah, it was a bit tough to direct and act, but I think he was also there, so that helped, and I knew how to go about the scenes, and he was there telling me if I was going wrong anywhere. So yeah.
But I think the beauty of being completely underprepared or with a small crew is like we had very many happy accidents. We didn't know that the plane would fly from there, but it did. We didn't know that the scarecrow was supposed to fall down, but it did. So there were some happy accidents because of that process, and it was only made out of love and the for just letting the story out.
Can you hear me? Yeah. Mo, hi. Welcome to Mami. We are glad to have you here. Meaning to talk about your film yesterday, actually, but I would love if you could walk us through the journey of making your film and how you went about making such a because on the big screen it was a hypnotic experience, and it was one of several films that had a beautiful voiceover as well. And we spoke about this yesterday, but we'd love to hear about your process of sort of making the film.
Hello, hi, nice to meet you all. I couldn't miss. I missed the Q&A yesterday, so yeah, and I hope to talk with you all after. And I make the film called The Author, and it's a film made mostly of photographs, printed on metallic paper and then scanned back and then also animated on it. It's a one-woman's job, so I produce, I directed, I draw, I took the photographs, narrated it, wrote the script. So the way that it came to be be a film is it originally started as a photo series because I work mostly with moving images and also with photographs and sound as well. So it started with a series of photographs. And then I just wanted to turn it into a short film where I imagined the photographs to move like a painting and to flow from one another, very in a kind of like a moving painting manner. And this is the technique that I found is like to print the photographs on a metallic paper, like gold paper, silver paper, and then scan them back. And sometimes I would also play with water. With the photographs, I would drip the water on the photographs, and then I would shoot it. So it's a different, like shoot it from the glass. So it's a very different way of like exploring cinematic language. But the story is about a memory that I had when I killed an ant when I was young, because I don't remember much of my memories when I was young, but that memory particularly always is in my mind because that is the time I felt like intense emotions, as like a 5-year-old little kid, killing an ant. I felt guilty, but I also felt power in it, and it's dark, joyful, remorseful feeling. But then it also applies to my current stage right now, as you may all know, like with the political situation in Myanmar, that the people are losing their power, and now I feel like I'm in the place of an ant, and so it's like a cycle of life and a lot of like Buddhism philosophy, apply to the concept of it. Thank you.
Mo, just wanted to know more about the process. So when you work with mixed media, like how do you start? Maybe if you create something and you build a story out of it, or you have a thought before you actually work with the medium. So how does it work? Is it more intuitive, or is it like planned? Just yeah.
It's more intuitive for me. Like I said, with the author, I didn't actually plan the film at all. It's a process of just finding like new process of making images, and then I found this technique, and then I planned the story later. So it's experimentation first, and then structure later for me. But all the other films are different from the author. I work with narratives, documentary. So yeah, it's like depends on what I'm feeling yearly. It changes. Yeah. Thank you.
Ayushman, I had a quick question for you as well. So it looks beautiful, it feels beautiful, and it feels scary. Beautiful in the way that it feels what it's supposed to feel like. That's what I felt after watching the film, and it's animated obviously, and just feels so well rehearsed. I remember going through the films on the website, and I downloaded the EPK, and I was very excited to watch that film, and it like really felt really nice. And I wanted to know about the cinematography process of it for a selfish motive. Yeah, so just something you can talk about the process, how the planning worked out, and then yeah.
Yeah, thanks, man. That's actually a very exciting question to talk about. So, can everyone hear me roughly? Yeah? Okay, awesome. Yeah. So, we rendered the film in Unreal Engine, which, because it's a game engine, it renders images in real time. So, unlike traditional computer animation, you're not waiting for, hey, here's a render of just the textures, here's a render of the lighting, here's a render in just grayscale. You get to see your changes in real time, the same way when you make a choice in a video game, your choice is seen instantly. So cinematography, it feels very lifelike, where there is a virtual camera, there are actors placed, you set your marks, then you hit play instead of action, and the scene plays out. So in that way, it's very similar to live action, which is why we brought a lot of our live action philosophies into it. Like, even though you can render images in real time, we still storyboarded. We did 15 animatics even before any of the 3D models were built, just to get a sense of what is the pace of the film, and then what will the shots look like, so that it all ties together. So we did all these animatics with using rough models and placeholders. until we understood, hey, like neon works in Kamathipura, or like, it can be grungy, but also still look a little stylish in some places. And then you get the palette. So that approach is also something that actually comes from hand-drawn animation. When you see Pixar and Disney do color scripts, the first scene is blue, second scene is green, or whatever. So it was a mix of all these philosophies, so that once you're actually in Unreal Engine and improvising live, you have enough plans that you can improvise well. Otherwise, you're just overwhelmed by the fact that, hey, I can shift my camera here and I don't lose time. I don't lose 1 hour changing a camera setup. Virtually it just goes there. So it's like this puppet show of a virtual film set. And I do think the more you plan, the more free you feel when you improvise. And then those accidents can happen, the happy accidents of being on a film set, but in this virtual puppet show. So it's quite a crazy experience to have happy accidents on a computer.
Very nice. I mean, I would definitely want to explore the virtual production. Thank you.
It's a very fundamental question. Every film is having two parts. One is content and another is technical part. Okay. Just I want to know the mathematical value of that particular film in the philosophy of content. Please, just I want to know. I'm a film critic. So just I want to know. Please, in brief, if you don't mind.
Yes, absolutely. Like I mean, everything starts with the idea, that we can consider content. So this film was actually a short story written by the screenwriter Sneh Sapru in her short story collection. And so, when you're adapting material, then you have to come with the humility that, hey, this content is separate from the film on one level. It was a short story that existed before the film came into being. Then it became a screenplay, of which the screenwriter is the author. And then I think when you're filming it, it's like, okay, now how do I do justice to this idea, like on, using these tools, using this style, using this technology. So I think we started with a lot of questions. Even though we felt like doing animation, we did ask, hey, does this approach need to be animated? You should always ask, does this film need to be made? If you feel, hey, this is better off as a comic book, that doesn't mean we go and write a comic book, but that means maybe we're not doing the right approach right now. So it's always asking, does this need to be made into a film with this medium? So I think that's my way of trying to pay respect to the content and how central it is to filmmaking.
Okay, thank you.
I have a question for Soumyajit and also an observation. So after the screening yesterday, I was discussing your film with others because everybody really liked it. And I feel like more than a narrative film, it seemed, especially because of the voiceover, which was so strong and so well recorded, so well written as well. It was more like a poetry video, that's how it felt. And for that reason, the ambiguity that it kind of had throughout it, like it's always ambiguous. You don't know exactly what the tension is until a little bit later in the film. So because of that, I think it keeps you engaged, and it's like a very lyrical experience. So I really enjoyed that. Thank you for giving me that experience. And my question is kind of about this fusion of voiceover and this very distinct visual language that you've derived, because you're also coming from a film school, as am I, and both of us are, these are student projects, right? And sometimes I feel like in the classroom, voiceover especially is looked at it in a very, very critical way, as if, oh, it's a crutch, or you are not able to accomplish anything visually, so you're doing this and that has made me very aware of, oh, should I write? And in fact, I like to write, but I have reserved, sometimes scared of that criticism. So I kind of wanted to know how you decided that, okay, my voiceover will guide my film, whether you wrote it before deriving the film language, after it, simultaneously, like just your process about that.
So I think the voiceover was from the very beginning a very integral part of the narrative, because I mean, I was looking at my inspirations, a lot of which come from Naomi Kawase, the Japanese filmmaker, who does extremely personal films, and she used to shoot with an 8mm camera. And random images, and on that she's talking about a journey of her own. And that kind of, I think, really, I thought that was really inspiring. I thought that is the way I wanted to express, especially with this film. And a part of me still thinks that I am not the best at writing dialogues, which I just feel that I've grown up watching Hindi cinema, that core of a romantic dialogue writing is what I have, which I really like also, but I didn't know if that would go with Flowering Man. In terms of the otherwise rhythm, so I am really inspired by dance. Music, of course, which is another part of it, but I think dance becomes a major, like whenever I watch somebody dance, I think is the most liberating form in the world that exists in terms of art. And I was trying to approach my camera movement particularly through that. So in the film, you'll barely see any static shot. Even if there's a static shot, there is some kind of movement happening. And that is what I was trying to look at it. I'm like, what if this is, I mean, this is something this I was doing while we were planning the short division. That what if this is the daughter is doing a stage performance where the father has come to see her in the college, and she's performing that entire journey that she's had with her father. And if I have to visually cut away and look at just that stage performance, how will I look at it? So I think that's where the juxtaposition of the voiceover happened, because there's a certain kind of romanticism in the way she speaks about the father, even in the way where she expresses her anger, saying that, I was so angry at you, I told my friend that my father is dead. But yet keeping the breeziness of how she's looking at the sunlight and how she's speaking of her personal journey at a protest, or even when she's saying sorry to her father while doing that. So there's just a small anecdote. So it's really strange because my clips had gotten deleted after I shot the film. So so the film was not written like this, where that plastic sequence is there where she's dancing. All of that was not there initially as part of the film. And so after we got done with shoot, we came back to look at the rushes, and I see that some 7-8 clips are missing, which have not been copied. So of course, and we have a certain kind of restriction that you can roll only, I think, 70 minutes for the entire film. We can't roll for more than 70 minutes. So everything is rehearsal, 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 and then take. And a lot of the shots are long takes. So I started crying, of course. And I'm like, this is not working out. And I was editing the film myself. So I was trying to put things together and see what is going to work out, how to fill those missing gaps. And then one day of shoot I got where I did the plastic sequence. And I was like, okay, let me just make with whatever is there. So a lot of the voiceovers that are there in the film right now are something that have happened on post. They are not planned. So yeah, I think, I don't know, I'm digressing, but it's a mix of what was planned before and what came out from the problems which all of us deal with. Post becomes the most integral part of filmmaking, it feels like, to an extent. So yeah, I have a question for you, which is, so like I told you yesterday also, that I feel your film talks about a certain nuanced experience of feeling out of place, and it was 14-15 minutes, the length of the film. How do you look at one experience and expand it over? Because there's of course a certain, I'm not saying that you are expanding time, but that one emotion which is so nuanced, which comes in the blur of the moment for us. Otherwise, when I'm sitting in a hall full of people or in a room full of people and I don't know anybody, I'm feeling anxious, I'm feeling like should I run away, but it comes for just a second. How do you explore that for a larger period of time? That, alongside the fact that why did you think of the field shots that are there in the film? Because that to me, I think felt a little like, okay, there's some kind of performance happening. Yeah.
I'm so happy that you caught on to that blur of the moment thing, because that's exactly what I was going for. Because this is also a student project, and I was discussing it with my guide. In the beginning, I was trying to, work on many themes. I was like, oh, there's indifference, there's detachment from the world, there's alienation, there's existentialism, and because a lot of the times we do feel everything parallelly. And sometimes it feels like you can't talk about one thing without talking about the other. It's one is feeding into the other. So how do you leave that out? So I was in that space for a long time. But from wanting to deal with all of it, I reached that I'll just take the small, then this minuscule thing which comes in between two thoughts, and just do that, just try to achieve just that for this particular film. Because also the first film I made, so I wanted to plan it so that I can accomplish whatever I'm planning for. Instead of later feeling like maybe I shouldn't have done this or shouldn't have done that. I thought that I could do this. That's why I did it. And secondly, the field shots I kind of thought of as the mind space of the character. And some of the shots are also shots, and the film is kind of built on personal experience. So my process involved going back to my own old journals and my own old, looking at works that I've read before or watched before, which have made me feel understood in the same way, and try and create that kind of an experience for somebody else. Because at one point in time, I was moved by it, so I wanted to move somebody else like that. And so that particular shot, the black and white shot, is directly derived from a painting I made to express myself, how I was feeling. So the title it's called Farther Than Distance, which comes from a diary entry, my own diary entry, in which I had written, I'm farther than the distance between us, because I feel like even though you and I are here in the same room, I'm somewhere else, like in my mind, and you can't fathom that. Yeah, you can't fathom that. And that's the feeling I was going for in the film. This girl just feels so distant and detached and away from everything. So that's also why I took that shot. It seems like she's in the middle of nowhere and she has nobody. And that's her mind space. And I wanted to project that and show that.
And I think that came off really well, that entire sequence of her constantly zoning out among other people. And it's something even I relate to, and I think it immediately connected with me.
I had a question for Mo. I was wondering if you would like to talk about any inspirations you had while creating this film. Because I know, at least for me, when I saw it, I was like, wow, where did this come from, So if there's anything that inspired you, either artistically or anything else, I think it would be a pleasure to hear about it.
This film particularly, actually, yeah, when I make films, I have some like source of inspiration or source of like filmmakers that I look up to. But for these films, it's I couldn't really like name one inspiration. It's more like because like filmmakers that I like normally are like Maya Deren. I like also Ines Vara. So they make films are mostly like from told through perspective of me or a woman, or focus on one woman character, and I like to explore their mentor journey a lot. And this is my first time going back to like a portrait film, like self-portrait, and exploring myself and my journey. And I'm also really inspired by the kind of like the cosmic and cosmological aspect and the universe and all these like very bigger things in life. And I want to make films that feels like that. So that's one of my inspiration. But apart from like feeling, being one with the universe, or like, trying to but I want the images to capture the feeling of only the feeling, not the content or context of it. So only the feeling of the narration and the feeling of like when you pray something, when you like close your eyes and pray something, you get the kind of like a I don't know, like whirlwind of emotions or whirlwind of like concentration in your mind. And that's how I want to feel this film about. I'm not sure if it achieves or not, but that's what I was going for. Thank you.
Khatri, I'm asking questions to you. I think cinema, whether it is short film, feature film, parallel cinema, it is a business of human sentiments. I want to know कि whenever you think to make such kind of a film, what is your priority? Its commercial aspects, masses, or something else? Or art? I want to know your priority. Being a filmmaker,
Thank you for that question. It's a fresh question. Like, I'm happy that we're talking about this.
yeah,
I think for me, the first thing is that I should be able to express myself freely. Like, only then I'll be happy with the output. And for me, that's very, very, very important. And if I feel like at a given moment, the theme that I'm tackling with, it might not reach a lot of people. It may be like, it may be accessible only to a few people, but that's how I wanted to express it. I think I would still do that, bearing the loss of an audience or any monetary value. But again, I'm just starting out now, so I'm still figuring this stuff out for myself. Especially with this project, I had the freedom to do this because it's a classroom project, student project, and nothing is at stake, right? So I could do whatever I wanted to. But I am really worried about this because I'm graduating soon, and I'm just like, okay, now I'm gonna make a graduation film. Should this be my full artistic expression, or should this be made in a very strategic way for it to like reach somewhere? And yeah, it's a very hard thing, that I'm still figuring out. I'm sure a lot of people are still figuring this out. But being here helps because I'm getting to talk with other people and I'm getting to understand their approaches and hear about what opportunities they are getting. But as long as the sentiment is concerned, I think I need to feel at the end of the day that I did it justice, that I expressed it fully.
okay, nice. My name is DP Mishra, and today my prediction is that in future you'll be rising star.
That means a lot. Thank you. I have a question for Mo. So, since you worked with mixed media and it involved a lot of experimentation and it involved, like you were saying, about liquid painting, right? Like the image of that itself is so moving. So, I'm kind of interested in experimenting with the visuals in such a way because I feel like abstraction is a very effective way of achieving this, expressing this in-between feeling, what I was talking about earlier, that sometimes you can't express in words. You need this visual experience to explain it to somebody. But I don't feel like I am the person who can make it happen with my own hands. I feel like I need to collaborate with others. But again, because it's so distinct how somebody would visualize that same feeling, what you are like, what I'm visualizing as this girl standing in the field, for somebody else, it's another image, right? So if you work with collaborators in such a medium, how would you brief them about what you want or about the kind of output you're expecting?
So yeah, in this specific film, for the visual part, I work by myself, but I often work with sound artists or collaborate with, because I sometimes double on audio-visual works. So I collaborate with a lot of sound artists. So I can share some of my thoughts on it, but I'm also looking forward to collaborate with like more like technicians or like more interdisciplinary artists and to see like what a good collaboration could be. But working with sound, sometimes it's more like, being directors, you want to be sometimes, in charge, or, you want to be in control of the narrative that you tell, or the story that you want to build. But when you're working with like other artists, it's good to kind of like let go of that. Let go of that. I don't know what I would call that, but like that kind of ambition. Yeah. Let go of the ambition, and just let loose of it and improvise. I think improvise is a kind of like a good way, and that way it's more like playing rather than you trying to reach something. And through like playing, through communicating, improvising, sometimes things could, like all the DIY things could turn out really, really, I don't know, artistic sometimes. So that also works for me. But of course, it's always helpful to like brief your vision and also let their, you know, not only their technical skill contribute, but also like their artistic skills blend together with you to create like a, you know, a cross-cultural, cross-hybrid art. Because I also want to look forward to work with dancers. I've not worked with dancers before, but I'm really into like interdisciplinary art making and collaborating with different artists rather apart from filmmakers. Yeah. Thanks.
Soumyajit, I just wanted to say that like I love the film, and I just wanted to like you to talk about, because I know this was a very personal film for you, and it's never easy to put yourself out there. So whenever you're making such a personal film that you're sharing, and plus it's a topic that we have to talk about and we want to make people aware about it. So how much do you decide to share it, because it's such a personal thing for you as well? So how do you decide ki what all do you want to share from your journey, and what exactly do you want to put out there, because the message is very important. So how do you categorize it?
I think when I was writing this film particularly, I didn't think of, because I don't know if it came organically, maybe it must have come organically to me to put it like that. But there was never a conscious choice as to how much I want to show, how much I didn't want to. I was just looking at this as a culmination of the 5 years that I had spent in that space. And of course, we all have a love hate relationship with where we come from. And that was the same relationship, that's the same relationship I have with that space. And I was just looking at it as a culmination of the journey I have had in FTI. And I don't know, I just felt that at some point of time, the only baggage, if I have to call it, is a certain kind of responsibility I have towards the society. And which is what I was telling him also initially, that, you know, I was just looking at it as the parent and child relationship, and how our expectations from our parents are of a certain kind, but we don't allow them to make mistakes, because we think that if they have made mistakes, it's wrong, but we can. And it takes us a long time to, I don't know, it takes us a long time to accept our parents for who they are, but we expect our parents to accept us for who we are. And that's the dichotomy of a teenage adult girl that Sanju is. Initially, that's what we were calling her. Yeah, I think that's the only responsibility. Rest, everything, a part of me, I think, was engaged in forming the language that I wanted to explore of the film, the visual design, where, because I've written this, like, it's really strange, because these final year films take a lot of time in our minds, because everybody's looking forward to it. No, like, we are also looking forward to, oh, that will happen by the end of this year, this is going to happen. So it's a year of writing and doing all of that. It's fun, but it's sometimes it just kills you inside. You're like, I can't do it, let me just stop making films, this is too much,
It becomes a task list that you have to take every box.
it is. But I'm just so happy that I had so much fun in the entire process. It's really, I don't think, and of course we have a lot of projects. I've independently also done a lot of things. I don't think I've had as much fun in anything. I was just having fun. And Taruna, because you said something, I'll tell you that, you know, when you're making your films, you have a lot of pressure that, you know, where we want to go with it. Do you want to make like a strategic film to crack a certain kind of festival code? Do you want to make something so you can show as your portfolio for work ahead? But just go with your gut, go with whatever you're feeling in the moment, because that's how you'll have fun. It's a really therapeutic experience, a therapeutic process, making any film, I mean, for that matter. Yeah.
And grad films are so much fun with all the friends that you're making that you forget all the pains and the hunger.
I had a question for Pranjal and Anant, because I think it's very fascinating that you guys are directing together. Pranjal is the actor, and you're the DP as well. And did you guys edit together, or did you work with an editor?
No, I edited on myself, and then we would share the drafts and
Yeah.
the other side.
Sorry. Yeah. So my question is one. That's amazing. So I was wondering if you guys can just walk us through how that works, like a typical day of production and post. Because one director is acting, the other director is seeing him from the point of view of the audience. Then the actor director is going to come back and also have a point of view on the cinematography and vice versa. And then back in the editing room, I think it's amazing. You guys are like a two-headed like Steven Soderbergh. So if you can just walk us through a typical day at work for you guys.
I mean, this is not work exactly because it was just a passion project or something like that. And the story came to me 2 months before I was supposed to leave. And I just wanted to quickly shoot, actually 3 months before I was leaving. So it was 1 month of writing. And it started off as a very absurd idea and then turned into something else completely. And yeah, we shot it. And then I took the rushes with me, and with my graduation and everything, my grad film, I was also on the side editing this once I was free. And we were back and forth sharing the drafts. And on the shoot, I think it was a 3-day shoot. And just running around and very, very messy. Nothing.
I also think when we were writing it as well, so he is from a very experimental zone. He hates narrations. He did not want a voiceover for the film. And I come from a place where I think that especially for this film, I felt that narration could work. But then initially I didn't mention it to him because I knew that he would just disregard it. So after the film was shot, that was the time when we were discussing it. I said, let's just try something and see if it works.
The only way I would agree to a voiceover was that it wasn't that extravagant, so emotional and so heavy and all that, voice modulation. I just wanted it plain dead.
Yeah.
That's how I would agree to it.
Plus, I think the character was in a very lonely space. So the monotony of the voiceover just helped it out because it sort of gave what was going on in his mind. So it worked in that sense. And plus, the part that you asked about how we were managing it on set, I think it goes that you have to have a lot of trust in each other, in the sense that I knew that if he's setting a frame, then I was trusting him in that moment before, and I was there from action to cut in my character. And as soon as it was cut, then we just discussed it, how it's looking and what could be different. And yeah, we just went with it.
The locations were however, like they were quite well planned out, and
Yeah.
it was a real watchman's room, and all the locations were properly planned out. And actually, those locations gave us the story in some parts as well.
Yeah, I think. Do we have a question? Okay. I think we have time for last question, and we will conclude.
Formality. This is to everybody. While you were making the film, any part of the process, the idea or the actual production or anything, when was the point it occurred to you that at one point I'd be talking about my project, and you must have thought of something that you would want to specifically mention. What was that thing? I just want to know when it came to you, and what was that one thing that has not been asked here, but you definitely want to talk about your respective journeys.
Hey, thank you. That's like such a cool closing question. I'll be really quick. So I think the point I realized we'll be talking about the film was this morning. It didn't hit. And I think in animation, we forget how much work the actors do, right? And with motion capture, we still had the actors move around. So we rehearse the way you would rehearse in theater. The actors are moving around. Then you rehearse again with the suits on, and you get the whole thing done. And it's really challenging for the actors because you're working first with tactile, you can touch each other and look at each other. Then you have the suits on and this like screen in front of you recording your face. And you have to remember what rehearsal was like when you could physically interact, especially in such an intimate film. And they had to remember that and then recreate that in a motion capture setup when you're not allowed to touch each other, because that ruins the capturing data. So I think just that process, I just want to thank the actors for trusting me that, hey, we're going to rehearse a lot without the suits, and then we're going to do blocking, assuming the camera doesn't exist, so that you get completely natural blocking, and we're going to do all the camera work later. And just, I want to thank the actors for trusting me with that process and being uncomfortable with the suits and working through that and just forgetting that this is a film and just being in the scene and letting the film all happen later. Thank you.
I'd like to add something. So, we asked about when we thought we have to talk about the film from the beginning because it's a student project and there's going to be a jury. So from the beginning, I'm thinking, oh, what am I going to tell? Like, oh, what was my process? Like, because I'm actually such an academic person that it matters too much to me what my teachers have to say. So from the beginning, that was in the plan. But I also had a terrible jury. The jury did not like my film. They said it's not communicating anything. They said, what is this like? What have you made? Why are their shots so long? And I was heartbroken. And I was like, oh no, I was kind of happy with the film. But this is insane. Like, this is such a shock to me and a terrible day. And what you said about the journey that I would like to say is that I was in such a state of shock and like remorse, and I just felt so sad. It took me a long time to feel like, oh, the film is actually okay, like at least I like it. To get back to that stage again, I think that journey is so important because when I had to give the next jury, I went prepared, and it was a documentary which was also personal, and I was able to do that distinction that it's an opinion and I can still be happy with the work that I've made. If somebody else doesn't like it, it's okay.
That'll hold you in very good stead for the future for film critics as well when they write about your films. Thank you everyone for joining us. Thank you for your time, all of you. And that concludes our press conference for today.